Archaeologists and scientists know quite a lot about their chosen fields, but they don't know everything. When something comes along that they don't understand, they'll study it and test it in the hope of gaining a better understanding. Most of the time that works, but there are also times when it doesn't. This video is about the times that it doesn't. From ancient mysteries to discoveries that are literally out of this world, it's a collection of the brilliant and bizarre. We told you we were going out of this world during this video, and we meant it. In fact, we're doing it straight out of the gate. Let's turn our attention to Mars, the red planet, where there's a pucker mark on the surface that should look familiar to anyone who's a fan of retro gaming. Take a look at it yourself, and what do you see? Well, hopefully, you'll notice a resemblance between this sand-filled crater and the legendary Atari character PacMan. The picture was taken in June 2018 by a camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, but doesn't give you a true sense of the crater's scale. It's approximately 5 kilometers across and sits inside an even larger impact crater called Marth. That crater is more like 100 kilometers across. The PacMan effect is created by the way that sand has very slowly been blown into the crater in a funneled shape by the Martian breeze. The surface pressure of the air on Mars is so light that a 200 km/h wind would feel like a light breeze on Earth. But it's enough to gradually rearrange sand and pile it up like this. The process usually leaves a long trail across the surface, though. Scientists aren't sure why there isn't one here. We've made the effort to go to Mars, so let's stick around for a while. In 2012, scientists identified a totally new kind of lava flow on the surface of the planet. These high-resolution photos show us coiled, spiraling patterns of lava that look a little like nautilus shells or snails. Lava patterns like this are rare even on Earth, but had never previously been seen on Mars at all. The images come from a region of the Martian surface called Cerberus Paulus in Elysium, which is noted for its high volcanic activity. Patterns like these on Earth are caused when cooling lava is pulled in more than one direction at once, so it's reasonable to assume that the same is true on Mars. Excitingly, scientists believe that they've also identified large slabs in the lava that look like broken ice pack flows in the Arctic Ocean. This strengthens the argument for large amounts of water ice existing beneath the plates of Elysium, something that scientists have long suspected. Furthermore, lava like this on Earth is most commonly seen in submarine lava flows in the Pacific Ocean. The coils we see in this picture are larger than any similar coils we've ever seen on our home planet. Might the underground lakes on Mars be more like underground oceans? The invention of Google Maps enabled hundreds of people all over the world to become armchair explorers, traveling the world from the safety of their homes. Most of those people have never found anything of note, but there are always exceptions. Here's one of them. It's a cave on a remote Antarctic island, and the entrance to it appears to be artificial. Commentators on the internet have suggested that it could be anything from a secret military base to the entrance to a hollow Earth. By tracing images on the Google Earth service backward, it's been possible to prove that the cave didn't exist before 2007. To make matters even stranger, it's since disappeared from the map again. Before it vanished, the entrance to the cave could be seen on Greenwich Island. It was roughly 75 feet tall and around 250 feet wide. There seems to be a series of steps leading up to the entrance of the cave, which further implies an artificial origin. Scientists have offered the suggestion that this was never anything more than a melt hole that's since been covered up by a snowslide. But melt holes don't usually look like this. What's gone on here? Is there a woman on Mars? Almost certainly not. The atmosphere on Mars is unsurvivable for humans without a spacesuit, and we've never sent human beings to Mars anyway. Is there a statue of a woman on Mars, though? Possibly. The official explanation of this sensational photograph, first seen in January 2008, is that it's just a strangely shaped rock on the Martian surface. That's possible. Humans have a strange habit of seeing faces and shapes in rocks, clouds, and just about everything else, thanks to something called pareidolia. This so-called woman of Mars, though, might be a little different. She's shown up in not just one image taken of the surface, but two. She was seen again in a picture taken by NASA in September 2013. It's harder to write it off as a trick of the light or the imagination when we have two images of the same thing. If this is a statue, though, it's a very small one. The statue actually isn't far from the camera on either occasion, and so wouldn't be any larger than 12 inches tall. Maybe that's why we haven't found life on Mars yet. The people who live there might be tiny. We're going back to Google Maps discoveries now, and this time we're hanging in the air above China's Gobi Desert. Scientists were initially baffled by this arrangement of lines, patterns, and structures in the desert when they first appeared in 2011. At first glance, they look a little like the famous Nazca lines in Peru, but these lines are a far more recent invention. They didn't exist before 2010 at the latest. UFO enthusiasts were quick to suggest that they might be messages to or from aliens, but military experts believe they might have found a more sinister and down-to-earth explanation. They think that these lines might somehow be used to calibrate Chinese spy satellites. The lines, which are an average of 0.65 miles wide and a little over a mile long, are large enough to be seen from space, and so can be used by satellites for orientation. The USA also uses similar, but not identical, methods to calibrate its own spy satellites. The explanation doesn't satisfy everybody, though. Some experts say that calibration targets shouldn't be this big, and if they are, it suggests that the ground resolution of the camera isn't good. Based on what we know about the efficiency of Chinese espionage, that doesn't seem right. We at least have a plausible explanation for the lines in the Gobi Desert in China. We're less sure about the origins of these so-called underwater crop circles off the coast of Japan. Most crop circles on land have been put down to the work of human pranksters, but it's difficult to imagine a fraudster creating a similar pattern beneath the waves. It's not even clear how they'd go about doing it. The circle, which was discovered by photographer Yoji Ookata in 2012, is approximately 7 feet wide and a little over 80 feet below the surface. After spotting it while diving alone, he returned with a camera crew and may have found some answers. He and the crew observed a pufferfish working at the shapes in the sand using its fin to carve grooves. Yoji showed the footage to marine experts, who suggested that this might be a complicated mating ritual. Female pufferfish create the circles to attract males, who swim into them to mate, and the resultant eggs are then laid at the center of the circle, where the structures act as a protection against the tide. If that's true, perhaps the crop circles at ground level are a misunderstood mating ritual too. The so-called underwater crop circle is a reminder of how little we understand about life beneath the waves. If you'd like another reminder, here's an enormous pyrosome. There's very little chance you'd ever see one of these rare creatures with your own eyes, and it's debatable that we should refer to them as individual creatures at all. This might look like one enormous organism, approximately 60 feet long, but it's actually a floating clone colony. A single pyrosome contains hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, of zooids. These multicellular creatures can reproduce both sexually and asexually, meaning colonies of zooids grow very quickly. Rather than drifting apart to find their own way in the world, they stay together and create these alien-looking tube-like shapes that drift along the oceans, deep beneath the surface. They move along by sucking in water and then blowing it back out again, so you could even say that they're jet-powered. The strangest thing about them is their bioluminescence, which only triggers when someone or something approaches them. How the light is produced is currently unknown to scientists. What's really going on in the Bermuda Triangle? Well, if we knew the answer to that, it wouldn't be one of the world's most famous mysteries. The truth is, there's probably nothing mysterious or supernatural going on within the confines of the triangle, but that doesn't mean it isn't a strange place. 5 U.S. Navy planes disappeared there in 1945 alone, vanishing during a training mission after Flight Leader Lieutenant Charles Taylor radioed base to say the water was the wrong color and their instruments were malfunctioning. None of the planes were ever seen again. Between 1945 and 1980, a further 25 planes vanished inside the relatively small triangle zone. No concentration of missing planes in an area this small exists anywhere else in the world. No wreckage from any of the aircraft has ever been found. Some say that aliens have something to do with the incidents. Others say that the triangle is the true location of the sunken city of Atlantis, which snatches planes and ships as they pass above. Neither explanation is likely, but maybe there's something unusual about the Earth's magnetic or electrical fields here. There has to be an explanation for all those missing planes. We just haven't found it yet. Mushrooms play a role in the cuisine of almost every nation in the world, but you'd be best advised never to pick and eat a mushroom you find in the woods unless you're an expert in fungi. It's probably fair to say that most mushrooms would do you no harm, but some might make you hallucinate and others might even kill you, so it's best to err on the side of caution. We definitely wouldn't recommend trying to eat these glow-in-the-dark mushrooms, which you'll find in the woods of Japan. They shine brightly with a greenish light in Nachikatsura in the country's Wakayama prefecture, where locals have been known to use them as torches to light their way home. The locals call them forest fairies. Scientifically, they're called Mycena lux coeli, and their glow has been attributed to a rare enzyme that oxidizes the light-emitting compound luciferin. There's some supposition and guesswork in that hypothesis, though, and there's a big question mark about why the mushrooms didn't seem to exist at all before they were found on Hachijo Island in 1951. Even now, the island is off limits because of environmental conservation efforts. Is there a secret being hidden here? There are scientists out there who wouldn't want us to refer to Bimini Road as a road at all. On the other side of the debate are people who passionately believe that it's a human-made road, and might once have been the pathway to Atlantis. You'll find the road in the Bahamas, but you'll have to dive 18 feet below the water to see it with your own eyes. The road starts just off the coast of North Bimini Island, and then runs across the seabed for half a mile. Each rock on the road's surface is about the same size, and the rocks are evenly spaced. Common sense tells us that this is a clear indicator of planning and design. Even in the face of what seems to be obvious evidence, scientists say that the shape of the rocks was caused by nothing more significant than normal erosion. And we see a road when we look at it for the same reason we sometimes see the face of Jesus in a piece of toast. That seems like a stretch. If normal coastal erosion can do things like this, why aren't there undersea pathways leading away from every island in the world? In fact, why is this the only one? In 1962, there was a conflict between the armed forces of India and China at the Conga Pass. Since then, the area has been no man's land. That's not generally a problem for anyone wanting to travel through it because Conga Pass is just under 17,000 feet above sea level. China still views Conga Pass as its international border, whereas India still claims the land and believes the Chinese border should be at Lanak Pass, further east. There are no official armed patrols here, but Google Earth shows us that something strange is going on. Neither side will admit to owning it, but these pictures clearly show a base of some kind. Perhaps this is why there are so many UFO sightings in the area. The most famous of them was in 2012, when a non-metallic UFO was spotted and reported by the Indian Army. But there are tales of UFOs associated with Conga Pass going back as far as the 1970s. Are the Indians or the Chinese operating experimental planes from this mysterious base which doesn't officially exist? If they're both telling the truth about not owning it, maybe the base belongs to aliens after all. The gates of hell are in Turkmenistan. Okay, maybe we're being dramatic, but a strange phenomenon known colloquially as the gates of hell exists in Turkmenistan. It's in the middle of the Karakum Desert, and it's been on fire for exactly 50 years as of 2021. Its less awe-inspiring name is the Darvaza gas crater, and it was created in 1971 after the Soviets had a mining mishap. The drilling operation broke into a previously unknown gas cavern underneath the ground, releasing dangerous amounts of methane into the atmosphere. The panicking workers decided to ignite the cloud and burn off the gas. Their scientists told them it would be safe to return and carry on drilling after the gas had burned away in 3 or 4 days. Obviously, that didn't happen. Scientists aren't sure why the crater is still burning. The only explanation is that it's getting a constant supply of methane from somewhere, but they're not sure where. It might burn forever, for all anyone knows, but it has at least turned into a tourist attraction. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!